Whew. Heat wave, emergency, crisis, crisis. We're all going to fry. Or, as the chief of the United Nations said, we are in the era of global boiling. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, if you happen to live in the United Kingdom, you must be literally melting. The stories are all over the place. You've probably seen some of them. UK built for climate that no longer exists and needs urgent changes to survive global heating. Report warns. Landmark report calls for widespread air conditioning and says UK temperatures forecast to exceed 40 Celsius by 2050. 2050, that's 24 years from now. 24 years from now, and I'll be 85. Okay, well, I'll deal with it then. But of course, that's typical of the headlines you're getting at the moment. And why are we getting this kind of horrendous threat to our well-being? It's all our own fault. It's all because of carbon dioxide coming from human beings. And we've got some geniuses telling us this as well. There's the former genius, Ed Miliband. I bet you he doesn't know how much carbon dioxide there is in the atmosphere, and even less its absorption spectrum, which is what this is all about. He probably doesn't even know what absorption spectrum means, but he'll also be aware hottest May day for nearly 80 years as parts of UK hit heatwave threshold. He'll know that's a crisis. Now think about that headline. So hottest day for 80 years. Okay, in May. That means it was hotter 80 years ago. So in the 1940s, the temperature was higher than it is now. Now, let's think about that. Right, we've been told that since the Industrial Revolution, around 1850 onwards, though the Industrial Revolution really started before then, it's been getting hotter and hotter and hotter. But it was hotter 80 years ago. That was like halfway between us and the Industrial Revolution. Second point, hottest May day for nearly 80 years. Oh, it's terrible when it's that hot in May. What's the difference between it being that hot in May and that hot in June or July or August? Maybe it's a special kind of heat in May, which kills us. Now, except some people really do suffer, vulnerable people, and some will pass away because of the heat. But cold kills tons more people than heat. That's why there's a winter fuel allowance to try to keep people warm, though, of course, Labour didn't really care about that for a while until they were forced to make one of their many U-turns. And this is the problem, the contradictions. A hot day in May is nice. It's an early bonus. When I was a kid, we used to call it summer. We'd say summer has come early this year and we'd be happy. There are others who also think this is not about climate emergency. This is one of the great warriors of his time. That's David Bellamy. He was given a very hard time, not least because he went against the grain. He talked about the fact there wasn't a human-generated climate emergency. I was shunned. They didn't want to hear, he said. That was 13 years ago. And he argued that his career was brought to a stop because he didn't go with what I think is the ludicrous climate scam. David Bellamy, in my view, is far more informed about the climate than some other people that we absolutely admire, apparently, people like David Attenborough, who I simply disagree with. And think about what David Attenborough has said about the human race. Here's one of the things. We'll come to David Attenborough in a minute. The warmest day of the year so far as extraordinary heat health alerts remain in place. Now, I just want to make a point about this. We're being told that we've got to stay indoors. We've got to find ways to keep our houses cool. Wait a minute. It's bank holiday week. Loads of people are getting onto planes to fly to places which are far hotter than the United Kingdom. Why are they doing it? Are they doing it because they want to die of heat stroke? Or perhaps they actually quite like the heat? And that's the point here. But of course, if it's in the UK, it's no good. Why? Because we haven't spent a fortune going for the sun. But there is something I wanted to say about David Attenborough. David Attenborough has been, regarded as a kind of a hero because he looks at all of this and he goes on about it. And essentially, unlike David Bellamy, he's been telling us that we're all in the wrong for believing that we can carry on like this. Essentially, David Attenborough, who is definitely with the program, he's definitely agreeing with the climate emergency, has tended to point out the heinous dangers brought about by all the human beings being so selfish and doing the wrong thing on the earth. And I think he actually described the human race as a plague. Yeah, I think he called us a plague. There we are. That's the one I was looking for. Humans, a plague. Can we just get that? Thank you. Humans, a plague, says nature expert Attenborough. Now, that's not very nice because while David Bellamy says human beings are not wrecking the climate, David Attenborough says that we're actually a disease, some kind of a virus. That means your children and your grandchildren, you're a plague. And you are a plague, damaging the earth. I think the opposite. I think human beings are pretty much the greatest invention, together with dolphins, whales, and so forth, because we're here to enjoy, and if we're responsible, to look after the planet that gave us life. But this guy, just celebrating 100 years on the planet, says human beings are a plague. I've met David Attenborough, and I really wanted to be impressed. But my concern is he's going along with something which is, in my view, scientifically nonsensical. Now, I've made this point before, and I won't go into it now because I really want to focus on the heat wave. That is just really nice weather. I disagree when Attenborough is wheeled out to tell us that this crushing heat, apparently, is all our fault. So let me get to the point here. Back in 1976, I was 11. And there was a heat wave and really high temperatures as well. And this is a picture, I think, from the London Evening Standard of some kids playing in Trafalgar Square. It was nice. It was black and white. We had good times. We enjoyed it because it was exciting that the sun came out. Now, I feel guilty about the fact that all that carbon dioxide that's come out of your exhaust pipe is wrecking the climate. I simply disagree. That was a wonderful summer as a child, and there were water shortages, and there was even a minister for drought. And funnily enough, about a week after he was appointed, it started to rain, and he never had a ministerial appointment again. He was too good. But where I draw the line is when we're told that this is our fault, it's bad, and somehow temperatures in the mid-30s in Celsius are the beginning of an oncoming heat Armageddon, of a global boiling caused by the human race. What really drives the planet's weather, the climate to be precise, not the weather, the climate, isn't really us. It's something called the sun. Don't look directly at it. But if you've been out recently, you'll enjoy its warm and tender rays, so you have to wear sunscreen. I recommend that, as it keeps the planet warm. When the sun gets a bit warmer, then we get a bit warmer. When it gets a bit colder, or Earth goes a bit further away from the sun, then things cool down here as well. The human race adds about 3% of all the carbon dioxide emitted every year. 97% of it is natural. It's total baloney to say that that tiny 3% is driving the climate. You actually have to create preposterous scientific or pseudo-scientific models to even justify that. And as a result of that, I put it to you that this whole thing is a hoax. It's designed as a religion for people who can't be bothered to go to church, but still want 4 elements of what really amounts to a cult. We're all going to die. It's all your fault. But if you repent, i.e. pay for all the expensive mitigation projects, then you will be saved. That's the religion of the climate emergency. And they jump on any interesting weather on the hot side to prove it. Lo and behold, if you're watching this live, 3 weeks ago, there was another headline, which I noticed. Snow in Shetland after UK's coldest May night in 5 years. This was at the end of, well, actually beginning of May, end of April, beginning of May. It was snowing in Scotland. If you live up in the north, you'll know how chilly it was. And actually, it hasn't been quite that hot as the media would tell you. But remember, much of the media is based in London, where it has been really nice. But that weather doesn't count, ladies and gentlemen. It's only the heat that counts. And they mix up weather and climate. Weather is what happens on a day-to-day basis. Climate is what happens over a long time. So they jump on weather events like the really nice May days we've had, thank goodness, at a bank holiday. But they ignore the fact that it's been unseasonably cold, particularly in the north of England, in recent times. It even hailed in the south. Now, hail's a slightly different thing, but it was cold enough to settle for quite a while. I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, that we're being sold a pup. And that pup is this nonsensical claim that human beings are wrecking the climate. We do wreck parts of the environment. We are irresponsible with pollution, fly tipping on a local scale, pollution on a massive scale, too much plastic in the sea, overfishing, things like that. And I think we need to be responsible guardians of the planet that has given us the life that I mentioned before. But we are not destroying the climate. It has been wonderfully self-regulating for billions of years. It gets a bit warmer, it adjusts. It gets a bit colder, it adjusts again. In fact, the biggest danger is that we're living in an ice age now. Did you know that? For 4/5 of the history of the Earth, there's been no ice, no snow at the North or the South Pole. That's a rare occurrence. And we're in an interglacial period, as it's called. That means that it's going to get colder again. And we're just in a kind of slightly warmer phase right now. Bring on the warmth, because it's the cold that causes us problems. And one last thing about carbon dioxide, the demon gas, which the climate fanatics hate. That's what plants breathe. It's the gas of life. Without carbon dioxide, almost all the vegetation dies. So the animals that eat the vegetation die, and then so do we. Far from wanting to reduce carbon dioxide, I say, let's release it. Let's deal with a long-term problem that carbon dioxide will get locked up in the rocks in the millions of years ahead. But in the short term, let's have a vibrant green world where the plants get what they need, and then so do we. And when it comes to hot weather, let's stop calling it a red alert and putting red heat alerts out there. If it was so dangerous, then the people of Spain would generally be leaving Spain, suffering heat stroke, or already dead. To stress again, and I don't belittle this, some people will pass away, expire because of the heat, people with vulnerabilities. But that is also true of the cold in much more of a scale. We are blessed to live on planet Earth, and even more blessed that its massive global air conditioning system cannot be wrecked by humanity. But what can be wrecked is your life, when foolish people like that dangerous man, ignorant of science, Ed Miliband, tells us to cut carbon dioxide and live some third world life. Last statistics for you. 80%, maybe even 90% of the human race lives in a hotter place than anyone in Britain. But less than 10% of the human race has air conditioning. Mostly it's not heat that kills humans, it's other things. But we're killing our lifestyle by the stupidity propounded by politicians who should know better, but don't. Maybe it's time to get qualifications for each minister to prove they have a basic understanding of the subject they're meant to represent us on. Until then, wear your sunscreen, go out, celebrate the wonderful early summer blessing we have, and pray that we have many more days besides, because it's the sun that gave us life. It's only politicians that ruin our quality of life. I'm Lembit Öpik. If you agree with any of what I've said, please do like and subscribe at Unprecedented TV. And if you disagree, I want to know why. And if you're persuasive, if you can argue your case, whether or not we agree with you, we'll give you airspace. Ed Miliband, take note.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages.